So I'd like to welcome you to Enhancing Student Motivation and Persistence, Identifying Factors that Keep Students Engaged. We have the wonderful Dr. Sade Beaulieu on the phone with us today. Dr. Beaulieu is part of our clinical mental health counseling program. She is also a postdoctoral fellow here at Walden University. She's wonderful. It's been so great getting to know you and working with you, and you have a great session in store for everyone. What Dr. Beaulieu will be covering today is she'll be identifying key factors influencing student motivation and persistence. She'll work on applying practical engagement strategies in teaching, and also she'll go over strategies to foster a classroom culture that supports resilience and growth. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to you, Dr. Beaulieu. Welcome.
Thank you for the great introduction. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Absolutely. We are at the next slide.
Okay, so why motivation matters. Here we kind of go into motivation and looking at it from the perspective that it is a clinical driver of learning because it shapes the effort, the persistence, and engagement students bring to their educational experiences. According to the self-determination theory, motivation is most effective and sustainable when it satisfies three basic psychological needs, such as autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So just to give you all a quick stat, for example, student motivation is a top predictor of persistence and success. So I would like to ask you all, what motivates your students most?
And you can enter that in the chat. I see the chat box is open and running. So what motivates your students most? You have some great minds, so I can't wait to see what you have to say. We'll give everyone just a moment or two to type in the chat. I know my students, I'll have to say, and Michael put in encouraging personalized feedback. I know with my students, talking to them, I just spoke to a student who's a little nervous, and I know we're in week 9 and she's still very nervous about the process and just being there for my students. I know Shanta had put, my students are motivated by professional growth and personal achievement of goals. That's fantastic. Let's see. Where performance is measured, progress is found. I like that, Michael, in addition to your encouraging personalized feedback. Brenda said, I guess I'm not sure. Maybe autonomy to advance more in their careers. And then Brenda wants to know, what do you mean by relatedness? Can you say what might be meant by relatedness on your slide?
So relatedness would be more of making the students understand real world situations. So bringing that realness to it. And sometimes relatedness can be you sharing something about yourself to them. And so sometimes when we share a little piece of ourselves, that also helps to motivate that student to understand that even though we're in the role of being a professor, that we once were a student as well. So we've been there before. Because sometimes they may look at it as, oh, we're the professor, so we don't understand from the student's perspective of what's going on and what's changing. But I like all of the things that you guys put in there in the chat, even though I couldn't read them myself. So I'm happy that you guys participated in the chat, because those are things that can help motivate students. So we want to make sure that we're giving them that purpose and that meaning, being able to have that clinical readiness, personal growth and self-understanding, and also that belonging and that relationship with faculty. So I'm going to go into talking a little bit more about that motivation, and then we'll move to the next slide. So
Perfect.
when students feel,
And really quick, before you move to the next slide, I just want to
yeah,
share two more comments because I think they're really powerful.
okay,
One is from Hillary Blevins, who is phenomenal with our analytics here at Walden. She put 97% Walden students strongly agree that reaching my academic goals will positively impact me, my family, and or my community. Thanks so much for sharing that, Hillary. And that's coming from the source. So Hillary compiles all that information. And Michael also put in students don't care how much I know until they know how much I sincerely and genuinely care about them and their success. Very nice. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go to the next slide, the science of motivation.
so the science of motivation, we have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. And then going into the self-determination theory with autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So factors that help students stay engaged can be understood clearly through the lens of motivation theory, particularly SDT. When students experience a personal connection with their instructor, they feel a strong sense of relatedness, which increases their willingness to participate. Ensuring that course content is relevant to real world goals, supports students' internalization of learning and enhances intrinsic motivation. Providing opportunities for autonomy and choice directly satisfies the need for autonomy, allowing students to feel ownership over their learning. Constructive, timely feedback strengthens competence by helping students understand their progress and how to improve. And finally, a growth mindset encouragement reinforces the belief that abilities can develop with effort, further supporting students' sense of competence and persistence. And together, these elements create a learning environment that meets students' psychological needs and promotes sustained engagement. Next slide. So barriers to engagement. I only noted a few common barriers that can reduce motivation, and I'll go into further explaining them. So some of them are lack of relevance or connection to goals, overwhelming workload or unclear expectations, having limited feedback or support, and negative classroom climate. So common barriers that reduce that motivation can be understood through motivation theory, particularly SDT or self-determination theory, which emphasizes that students' needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When their learning activities lack relevance or connection to students' goals, students struggle to internalize the material, and it can weaken that intrinsic motivation. An overwhelming workload or unclear expectation undermines students' sense of competence, making tasks feel unmanageable or unpredictable. Limited feedback or support further erodes that competence by leaving students unsure of their progress and how to improve. And finally, a negative classroom climate disrupts that relatedness, reducing students' feelings of belonging and psychological safety. And together, those barriers prevent learners from having their core motivational needs met, which in turn diminishes their engagement and their academic persistence. Next slide, please. So here we're going to talk about drivers of persistence. And some factors that help students stay engaged are personal connection with their instructor or their professor, relevance of content to real world goals, having opportunities for autonomy and choice, constructive timely feedback, and having a growth mindset encouragement. So I'm going to further talk a little bit more about those. So having a personal connection with your instructor or professor strengthens relatedness, helping students feel seen, supported, and valued in the learning environment. Ensuring relevance of content to real-world goals aids in the internalization of learning and boosts intrinsic motivation by showing students why the material matters. When you provide opportunities for autonomy and choice, that satisfies the need for autonomy, which then fosters a sense of ownership and empowerment. That constructive, timely feedback enhances competence, guiding students toward improvement and enforcing their progress. And growth mindset encouragement, it supports competence by helping the students view challenges as opportunities for development rather than threats. And when those elements are present, students' psychological needs are met, resulting in stronger motivation and more sustained engagement. Next slide. So here on the next slide, it talks about the science of motivation. And I broke them down into autonomy, competence, relatedness, and relevance, and provided examples to showcase those things. So for autonomy, here you would have where you will let the student choose a topic or their partner for if they're doing projects within the class. For competence, you have those low-stake assessments to gain those early wins. And so those early wins that you basically can look at could be more like those micro skills or having some form of like check-ins or a short quiz for whatever the course that you may be teaching. And that course can range from counseling of theories, ethics, diagnosis, and theories. And then for relatedness, using group work and or having peer feedback. And for relevance, the example strategy would be connecting lessons to real world problems. Because when you do that, you're allowing the student to be able to see that, hey, things are happening in the world, and now we need to apply it to these real life situations and don't look at the things that we're learning as just concepts, and being able to see it as the bigger picture and seeing how we all fit in together and ways and things of us of how to be able to move around and see it all coming together, especially, for example, like if you're using a skill or a technique that you want to showcase in front of a particular client, or having them do like a role play. And when that individual is talking and sharing their story, is being able to not just only connect with the client, but also help the client understand why and where and which of how they view and see and shape the world, and that will help them sometimes to be able to bridge that connection. Next slide. So here we have faculty influence. So students learn best from their teachers or professors who believe that they can succeed. So with that, you want to model enthusiasm, curiosity, and respect, and also communicate care and have high expectations. So just to go in a little bit more depth with those things, when teachers genuinely believe that their students can succeed, they communicate positive expectations that strengthen their students' sense of competence and also can increase their beliefs in their own abilities. So when teachers or professors who model enthusiasm, curiosity, and respect, they basically create an environment that can support their relatedness by showing their students that learning can be meaningful and enjoyable. Along that side of communication, care, and maintaining high expectations, it basically balanced support with challenge. So helping students feel value while also sending students a message that they are capable of meeting rigorous goals. And together, these behaviors can satisfy students' needs for their competence, their autonomy, and their relatedness, thereby fostering that strong motivation, engagement, and academic persistence. Next slide. So here we have a growth-oriented environment. And here it kind of goes into talking about promoting effort and improvement, not perfection, using feedback that emphasizes progress and learning strategies, and being able to share stories of overcoming challenges. So strategies such as promoting effort and improvement rather than perfection, using feedback that emphasizes that progress and learning strategies, and sharing those stories of those overcoming challenges, all together those things can help students develop their strong beliefs and regulate their effort more effectively, according to the research that I did, where they were talking about different ways of unlocking academic success and how having a growth mindset can enhance the student's performance through their self-belief and effort regulation. And by emphasizing that process over innate ability, providing actionable feedback and modeling perseverance, educators can create learning environments that sustain motivation and reinforce adaptive learning behaviors and increase overall engagement. Next slide. So here I provided a reflection activity. And so the prompt that I would like for you all to think about is one practice you'll adjust next quarter to strengthen motivation and persistence. And for myself, I've been teaching counseling of theories course in the fellowship, and I have enjoyed it. And what I decided to do was to provide my own examples for you guys on the master's level students as well as a doctoral student, because I would like to one day teach a doctoral class. So for me, when I think of one practice that I can adjust for my next quarter to strengthen motivation and persistence, I was thinking more of like having like a weekly roadmap. And basically, this would be an overview of a video or a post that I can put in the announcements that outlines the priorities, those common pitfalls, or how the week content apply to the counseling practice, and helping students stay focused in the accelerated format that they're in, since we're teaching online courses. And then for doctoral students, this is something that I would like to do in the future, doing and providing a consistent progress check-in. And so here, I'll be basically implementing a brief check-in, and it could be with the individual or doing like a small group, and maybe meeting on Zoom or Teams with those particular doc students, and really dive into their progress, their obstacles that they may be having, their next steps, and helping students stay accountable and connected in that online environment. Next slide. So here we have key takeaways. So from my webinar presentation, these are the things that I would like for you all to have taken from my webinar, which is understand motivation drivers, implement engagement strategies that sustain effort, and foster a growth-oriented classroom environment. Next slide. Here I provided some suggested resources, and these are books. So this is what I use to be able to help create my my webinar PowerPoint presentation. And so I have the APA format here for you all, so that way you can go ahead and get the books if you are interested in learning more about my particular topic. And then on my next slide, I have here my resources. And then finally, I would like to thank you all for taking the time out to come to my webinar presentation, even with all of the technical difficulties that we were having. I really would have liked to be present in the Zoom so that way I could see people if they had their cameras on or anything like that, or to read the chat for myself. But we have to keep moving forward even when we have little hiccups. So thank you all. If you have any questions, I'll be ready for those.
We do have the chat opened, so and you're receiving some applauses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sade. You're
I
a
wish I could
trooper.
see them.
I know. Well, we are recording. I'm glad you said that. We are recording this session, and we will be sending a link out to everyone that attended today. We are also placing it in Commons, and it'll be available on our OTLME website as well. Any questions, comments before we close things out? I'm getting a lot of thanks. Fantastic.
Thank
Allison,
you.
Micah, Shanta, Sherry, Brenda, lots of thanks, Michael. Wonderful. Well, I want to thank all of you, our participants, for joining us today and supporting our Faculty Leading the Change series. It's so great to always have such a great presence in each session. We truly just admire everything that you do for our students here at Walden, whether you're faculty or staff or part of our leadership. It's so appreciated and what keeps things rolling and making our student experience so great. And Dr. Beaulieu, so great to have you on the line. I know you put a lot of effort into today's
Yes.
presentation. Always a pleasure working with you. If you have any questions, anyone on the line about today's session or any upcoming sessions. Oh, thank you, Michael. We are united. Yes, we are. And Kendra, love the idea of a roadmap. Wonderful. Thank you all. But please don't
Thank
hesitate to reach
you.
out to us at OTLME, and we can get you links if you need or copies of PowerPoints. And until we see each other again, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week. Take care, and thank you so much again, Dr. Beaulieu.
Thank you all.